Unable to have one's voice heard, unable to show what one truly believes in, being silenced when one tries to speak their mind. Imagine how life would be without human rights. These rights impact the lives of many today and play a major role in how many people live. Major human rights include freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. There are many people who live without these rights. Take the people of Uganda, for example. They live life with having many restrictions on freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. Freedom of expression and assembly are not valued by the Ugandan government, but are desperately strived for by the Ugandan people. The people of Uganda have been striving for the allowance of these human rights for many years now. However, Uganda's government does not find the use of these two human rights ideal or necessary to their country. Now, the modern day, these rights have had the most dispute than ever before in Uganda's past. Both rights are being violated by the Ugandan government. The Ugandan government passed various laws, acts, and bills to limit and restrict those human rights, such as the Uganda Homosexuality Act. And the ones who are mostly impacted, the people of Uganda, as they cannot speak their true mind and feelings out loud. They cannot have their voices heard in any way. These people are continuously silenced whenever they try to speak their minds and give their own input on topics and problems in Uganda. The people in Uganda are continuously trying to work to return to life with human rights in Uganda, as well as other supportive human organizations working with them. Now, the government has only worked to curb the country's freedom of expression and public assembly. They have passed various laws, acts, and bills to suppress these human rights, including the Anti-Homosexuality Act. The Ugandan culture does not believe that LGBT persons are morally right, thus they create and pass all of these laws and acts. The Anti-Homosexuality Act was passed in 2013, and it changed the punishments given to found LGBT persons. The new punishments as of 2014 include life to prison, as well as the death penalty. Uganda is further preventing the people's freedom of speech and expression by worsening the consequences of any actions or identification related to homosexuality. This includes actual LGBT persons, protesters, and supporters of these persons. This shows one of the many ways in which Uganda is silencing the voices of its people. The Public Order Management Bill was passed by Parliament in 2013. Now, this bill granted police further power to disallow public meetings and assemblies. Uganda is further preventing the people's freedom of speech and expression by giving the police forces more power to disassemble the public assemblies. It shows how Uganda is further preventing the community's freedom of speech and assembly. Now, social attitudes include the peoples of Uganda's desire to promote freedom of expression and assembly, and their frustration towards the lack of the cooperation with the Ugandan government. This builds upon the people's resilience in their attempts to forge these missing human rights into Uganda's society. Culture attitudes include the fact that the Ugandan culture considers LGBT persons as morally wrong. It goes against what the standard Ugandan society believes and supports in. The problems and fight for freedom of expression have been going on for quite some time now. The battle particularly began in 1972. Uganda's lack of human rights was recognized during the Freedom in the World reports, in which people began taking note of Uganda's failure to uphold their human rights. There have not been several human rights organizations that have tried to, and still to this day make human rights more emphasized in other countries. They also made attempts to help implement freedom of expression and right to public assembly in Uganda. These organizations include the Human Rights Network and the Uganda Human Rights Commission. These major human rights organizations have had their eyes on Uganda because they also agree with the notion that Uganda is failing to uphold their human rights. The Ugandan Human Rights Commission specifically launches its yearly reports in which the progression they have made for these goals, for making these human rights possible. Again, in addition, the Constitutional Court has changed Uganda's Anti-Homosexuality Act with the hopes that Uganda will change their views on the act as well as other acts, bills, and laws previously passed by the Ugandan government in the past. Now, these human rights organizations are major examples of how the outside world is trying to implement human rights everywhere, not just Uganda. But so far, the attempts of the human rights networks in the Uganda Human Rights Commission have rendered useless. The Ugandan Human Rights Commission's yearly reports, in which they state their progress towards achieving these rights and ways on how they can contribute to do so, have just been ignored or not taken into any consideration by the Ugandan government. The Constitutional Court's challenge against the Anti-Homosexuality Act has also been rendered void against the Ugandan government. These organizations and groups keep striving for freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. Uganda has not changed and they do not seem to do so soon. But I propose 3 solutions to bring freedom of expression and assembly back into Uganda's life. First off, Uganda's government should allow their people to form a public assemblies. Secondly, the government should allow the people to speak their minds and what they believe in. Now lastly, the Ugandan government should provide rights for protection for LGBT persons in a manner in which they are equal to the other people in Uganda. Now, these recommendations are pretty realistic and achievable because they are very possible. It's very possible for them because all they have to do is have the government replace these laws and acts and come to agreement. They are forward thinking, and this is because this will allow the people of Uganda to have a voice and have a say in Uganda. Doing this will allow people to have their hunger for human rights satisfied. The Ugandan government should also take into consideration that they do not have to do everything the people are telling them. For example, if they allow the people freedom of expression and assembly, and then they protest their ideas on a topic, the government is not obligated to do everything and follow the ideas of the people, so it would not have a significant impact on how the Ugandan government operates if that is what they are concerned with. Also, allowing people to express themselves on certain ideas can help the government in Uganda. With the public able to freely express their views on certain situations, the government could use some of the people's ideas. The Ugandan government and the people will be able to come together on some scenarios in the future. In the end, they both can actually better Uganda's society and have a bigger impact on their country. Thank you.